Hello, Vanakkam, and welcome to Sudarshan's podcast. I'm Sudarshan, the host. Today I have Mukil Ganesan, who's the director of marketing at Konsark AI, which is a SaaS platform for finance teams. Hey, Mukil, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Sudarshan. Thanks for having me here.
Yep. So, every episode I start with a brief introduction about the guest, but Mukil, I have to give, a little more comprehensive introduction. So, he been a very good well-wisher and mentor for me. And we know each other for like 4 5 years, Mukil, now.
Yeah, I think we first met back in 2020 or something during the COVID
Two, I
time.
guess. Yeah, I think you were doing all things as around the same time, right? 20.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So all things as is a entry door for people who wants to crack SaaS, especially
Yeah,
Chennai SaaS community, right? So Mukil and one of his friends started that community slash cohort kind of thing, and I was a kid there, want to understand SaaS, and got onto that and understood some of the basics there. Then we know. Then I joined Zluri later. There, Mukil was heading the demand gen team there. Then after that, he moved to Konsark recently. And last year, when I moved from product design to marketing, and also it's in a very early stage company, I just want to talk to people who been there, done that. And Mukil is doing that for this third time. He was one of the first demand gen hires at Facilio, then at Zluri, now at Konsark. So, yep, I just want to understand things. And he was generous enough for last 1 year. We spoke around like easily 6 7 times, and every time it is easily 2 hours plus, right? So all his wisdom is something he shared with me. And one of the things I used to feel like for Mukil and other couple of folks who helped me in this last 1 year, I just want to be that Mukil to someone who might be starting his career in marketing 5 years down the line, right? That is something, that's a way to pay it forward. So, yep, very happy to have you here, Mukil. We'll take that wisdom to the world also.
absolutely.
Awesome. Right. So I think, yeah, I gave my introduction. I think we'll go, I might have missed few. Yep. You introduce yourself and Konsar.
Sure, sure. So I'll start with where I started my career. I think it's my 11th year, if I'm not wrong, in marketing. So I started my career with Zoho, joined as a content marketer, moved into more of doing marketing analytics. And then I think my first 1.5 years at Zoho was more around understanding what SaaS is for that fact, and what do each teams do, and how does everything tie back to revenue at the end of the day, and what is the contribution of marketing or a support or UI team or integrations team, etc. Right. So I think my first 18 to 20 months at Zoho helped me understand that in depth. And I think I had people who were generous enough to, clarify the questions that I had whenever I went and asked them. Fortunately, a new role, or we were trying to solve a couple of peculiar problems at that point in time. It was mostly revolving around scaling revenue, bringing down churn, and the product that I worked for was selling to SMBs at the end of the day, where usually churn is pretty high. And that got me closer to revenue generation. So just forgetting about marketing or whatever other things are play around this, right? But this specific role, that role didn't even have a name at that point in time. But it was like a small pod that was set within the product team, where myself, there was one other product manager, pre-sales person, and we used to borrow some UI folks from the team. So I think the fundamental goal was to scale revenue, and that got me more and more closer to understanding why revenue is that only KPI that matters. And that also helped me focus on the right set of initiatives. So I was with Zoho for close to 4 years, and I think my last 2 years at the company was more around chasing this, trying out different strategies, doing a lot of things, not just in marketing, but across different sections or different functions that's in a SaaS company. And then essentially those were the learnings that kind of converted into what we did try to do with all things SaaS. Unfortunately, we were not able to continue it after a point in time due to other priorities. But yes, that's where I started my career, and then I moved on to Facilio back in, I think, 2019. Yeah, 2019. And so that was like a significant shift for me, because here I'm coming from a bootstrapped company which sells to
Relaxed
SMBs.
environment. Relax the whole
Yeah,
environment.
yeah, and large teams, products that already have customers, that has a roadmap, so on and so forth. And then moving on to a company that was just getting started, was operating in a very conventional industry, commercial real estate, and selling to very large enterprises. And here I was joining as one of the earliest members of the team. So that was like a significant shift that happened for me, and it was pretty scary when I got started, to be very honest. But then I think I started. It was pretty fun. So I think we were solving a lot of problems day in day out. I think startups are more about like removing that whole functions out of it, right? So we have, let's say there are 30 people in a company across different teams, etc., etc., but we just need to keep solving problems, right? So, and how are we going to solve those problems, right? So can be marketing or engineering or whatever it might be, but how are we as a team going to solve those problems, right? And how are we going to learn that space as well, which is like a very, very, nobody knows anything about real estate, a commercial real estate for that matter, right? So I think the learning experience and solving problems at the same time, and eventually seeing that converting into, let's say, a pipeline or a revenue, right? I think that arc was uh, that's what startups are at the end of the day, right? So and I think I was with Facilio for close to 3 years. So we went through our Series A, Series B, and then I was starting to scale the team, and then that's when I moved on to Zluri. This was back in 2022. Here as well, it was a very similar stage at which I was joining the company. So had like a couple of customers, and the product was working, was good, and they were looking for someone to come in and kind of start building foundations on the demand gen front. And I think that was a different experience altogether, I would say, where the pace at which the company grew was also significantly faster than what it was at all of my previous career journeys. And with scale came a lot of other challenges as well, in terms of how do you go about, when you're a very early stage company, processes or all these frameworks doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you need deals, you need to win deals. Marketing should move things. Things should keep moving. That's what we prioritize for. Things, execution should happen. You can't just keep waiting for, let's say, something else to be over for you to execute, right? So you need to keep executing whatever happens. You need to keep shipping every single day, we beat whatever team you're in, and that's what helps you be on par with someone in the Bay, or someone who is building in a much more sophisticated market with a much more superior funding at the end of the day, right? So I think uh, early on, it was more around shipping things, getting things done, seeing those numbers, making sure that we are on the right path, etc., etc. But I think as we started scaling, newer challenges and problems came up, which we were trying to solve for. And I think the product also went through different repositioning. And I think they had an impressive product from a tech perspective. It was really, really superior from what others had in the market at that point in time. So I think there my focus was mostly around demand gen operations, where we set up an outbound function. We were working with a couple of agencies for content, for ads, and then we were setting up a field marketing function. We brought in, so at one point in time, we had a life cycle marketing team. We were strengthening the operations team very, very early on. So that's a learning that I kind of had from my previous experience as well. I think ops is one of the most underlooked functions in many companies and many marketing teams, where they think about it too late when things get screwed up, where your data is, beyond repair. Your hygiene standards are very, very poor. And then when you need to pull some report, that's when you hit those roadblocks, right? But I think one thing that I was very, very conscious about was to bring in an ops person once things started slowly scaling up, right? So we built the ops function, and I think fundamentally built the whole demand gen org, and I was with the company until they hit around $5 million in ARR. And then we went through like multiple stages in our journey, multiple challenges across people, processes, systems, and it was a really good experience working. I think they were also working in more of a deep tech space. It was more of, we started at IT, and then we kind of moved into cybersecurity. So that was like a really a good arc, an interesting arc that we went through. Helped me learn a lot of things, and I think helped me understand US market as well in depth. So that's how my journey went at Zluri, and then I was with them again close to 4 years or so. Then moved on to Konsark very, very recently. It's been 5 to 6 months here, and it's been going well. So we are building the execution layer for finance close. So, to put it in simple terms, finance close is a process which your finance and accounting teams go through almost every single month or a quarter or a year, where they go through like multiple processes. It's like a 10-day job for the team where they go in, they try to look into all the data, the money that's coming in, the money that's going out. They try to reconcile the information. They try to kind of, you know, make it audit ready and bring in all the required information for that. And it's a very, very manual process where you need a team of like let's say 3 4 people or x number of people who are working day in day out in a very tight deadline, because you can't like keep delaying that needs to be a cyclic process. And Since it's very human driven, there are chances for errors. Always there will be errors coming up, uh, and people work under a lot of pressure. So what we are doing is there have been a lot of tools in the market that kind of help you track this finance close process. But what we are doing is we are building the agentic layer to execute this process. So assume that the incumbents have a checklist. Okay, these are the 20 things that you need to do. And a finance controller would go in and they will kind of ensure that these things are assigned to the right owners within his or her team. And their team members will go and execute the task and go and update it back into the platform, telling, hey, this is in progress, this is awaiting approval, this is already approved and moved, and this is the progress for this finance close cycle, so on and so forth. That's a checklist. And what we essentially do is we roll out multiple agents that go
Do
and
that.
work on top of your ERP system, which will go and complete the task and then go back and tell the controller, hey, these are the things that have been executed that needs your review. These are some of the exceptions where we need deeper dive from your end, and you can just review and approve it. So this significantly saves the time that a finance team spends on a finance close process, be it multiple cycles. It can be monthly, yearly, quarterly. So we kind of bring it down by, let's say, 50-60%. And so we are also moving towards a multi-agent architecture where agents talk to each other and get their job done as well. So that's the path in which we are moving forward. So that's what we do at Konsark, to put in a very, very simple manner. Of course, the platform is really broad, really in depth, designed and built by accountants. All of my co-founders are chartered accountants who work for big four companies, come with decades of experience into the space. So it's been pretty interesting, and I'm also slowly trying to learn this whole accounting and finance space and how to sell to a CFO or a controller, right? So, and also the whole agentic AI part, the true actual agentic AI part where the company is trying to solve for, is pretty exciting. So yeah, that's where I am.
Yep, interesting. One of the things I'm seeing when you said Consark's agent executing the task in the checklist, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is where, I mean, if you take, I recently spoke to someone from Beacon.li, which is implementation platform. So they roll out their agents which go and do the tasks.
Mm.
Initially in the PSA space, it is a project management tool for people in the implementation or PS side. Now they are getting to the next step where the agents do work done. Something interesting. Same goes for yours. Even at the company which I'm working, initially the tools will kind of analyze and give you a way to, I mean, give the insight to take action. Now we have agents that takes action
Mm.
in their shoes. Yeah. Interesting. So one of the patterns, right? Like I said initially, Facilio, Zluri, Konsark, almost in the 0 to 1 stage. Why? I think one of the things I know, I mean, people over time, they kind of don't like the 0 to 1, right? Because
Mm.
things will be very messy. There is no set workflows in place, and it is your job to go fix that. One thing.
Mm.
But Many people when they age, they wouldn't prefer 0 to 1. What keeps you going back to it?
Mm.
And if someone I've seen folks like you, right? So what are those fundamental characteristics that you have that is pulling you back to 0 to 1 again?
So, I think there would be a lot of dimensions to this
Mhm.
answer, right? But,
We'll speak one of
but,
them. Yeah, everyone.
but, but something that I really like to do is I like to execute. I like to ship things, right? So I think after this whole AI, uh, these coding agents came into the picture, like your Cloud Code, Codex, etc. I've also been kind of experimenting, building things, shipping things, just experimenting how this works, and it's been super interesting to know that, right? So one, I think I like to execute. I want to see things move. Let's say if something is not moving for a couple of days or weeks, I get bored. One. Second, I start getting frustrated. These things need to move, right? So that's one, I would say, a characteristic
Yeah,
that
I
that
heard
I
that Zluri colleagues told me about that.
oh, is it okay? So I want to just get things done in the right way. Second, I think the whole rush of working in a startup, right? I know many people, once you tell a startup, tell you're working for a startup, or if I go and tell someone, hey, why don't you try out on an early stage company? It's more around the risk part comes up first. What if it doesn't work out, right? What if you get laid off? What if the company is not able to solve this problem? And I think I don't care much about it because for me, I think I want to work in a very interesting space. And I think by choice or, by coincidence, all of my previous stints were very peculiar industries or very peculiar journeys. And I liked it. I like learning that and then kind of understanding it completely and then executing and then scaling and building a team, a system, a process around it, and then, hitting that number, whatever it is. So I think that that has its own ups and downs. Your wins are worth celebrating always, and the losses that you have, the bad times that you have, it'll sink you like anything. But you again come back, like every single day you show up. You need to show up. You need to get things done, right? So and I think that keeps me up, that keeps me on, and I'm always on the lookout. I think we were talking about. I was just talking to you about. What you're using for LinkedIn automation, right? And what was the cost of it. So now I have it open on my tab. I'll go back and share it with my team, right? So I think I'm always on the lookout on, hey, how I can improve things. And it's not about me as a marketer here. I need to help the organization win at the end of the day in whatever capacity I can contribute. And just because I tell that, I can't go and tell my engineering team to do so and so. Well, I'm not, practically authorized or don't have that experience to go and do that. Like maybe I can learn and get there, but I can't just simply go, telling things, right? So I think that's the second part. The third one is more about seeing that growth, seeing things grow, seeing a company grow. And something that I really loved about building teams, be it at Facilio or at Zluri, I'm still in touch with most of them. It's that how they have grown in their careers, what they have become today, what they are doing today, right? So, and I think that's the most rewarding part for me where, hey, we built this, I brought this person in and I saw them, operate in a team. I saw them getting things done. I saw them making mistakes. We had our own, frustrating days. People ran and there were pretty emotional days as well. But at the end of the day, how they came out of it, right? So be it at the same company or at another company or wherever they are currently, I think that's the most rewarding part for me, where how people are evolving, right? So and how they are evolving in their careers, and what are the benefits or what are the outcomes that they are able to experience out of that. And thinking that I would have played like a very small part in that is more and more rewarding for me. That's from people perspective, right? And then the other part is the organization in itself. So how is the organization growing? And I think in startups, your effort, I mean, if you're not putting in effort, you're screwed, right? So people know that you're not putting in effort. And with now AI coming into the picture, you can't do some bullshit and tell I did the job. AI has
Yeah, true,
exposed that
true.
today. You can't just randomly put out a blog and tell, hey, this is the blog I've done, right? Uh, so the good part about AI is it has exposed the folks who are like very mediocre. And there are people who still hesitate to use AI where the answer is right there, but they don't want to go and kind of do it. That's again an incapability, right? So I think how the organization grows and how did your contribution tie up to that organization's growth? Uh, that's when I see experience that, be it inside or outside the organization after I move on. I think that's been pretty, it's good. It feels good. Right? Hey, as part of this company, and we did so and so, and this is how the company moved on, right? I think fundamentally these are the three or four, and I get to work with like really good, very interesting people who, you know, who are very passionate about what they are doing, what they are solving for, and that helps me get more perspectives. Like, I think if you go and talk to a founder, you'll a 30-minute conversation will give you more and more newer perspectives on how they are thinking, how they are approaching something, not just from professional perspective, but from personal life perspective as well. And you get to see them working, right? So how is a CEO handling, not a CEO or maybe a co-founder or anybody in the organization, a leader in the organization, how are they handling things, right? So how are they uh, uh, resolving a conflict? How are they very hard calls, and how are they going about, what is their operating style, right? So I think I've had the privilege of seeing that with multiple people today, multiple leaders across my journey, and I think that makes me a better person at the end of the day. So I think I can keep talking about it, right? But fundamentally, I think these are some three or four things that drives me back to startups, because I think the other day, couple of months back, so I was driving with my wife, and I think in my road, a lot of these GCCs are coming in, and so I was looking at one huge building. That whole building was that office, right? It's like some 8 or 9 floors and very fancy, etc. And I was just telling, yeah, I do miss working in a large company like this. Look, they have a gym, they have blah 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 cap. It's very fancy, etc. etc. And then she was like, I don't think you'll fit there anymore. You just stop dreaming about it. So I think that was the conversation that I had with my wife the other day, right? So I think that's what attracts me to startups. So that whole rush. Of course, it's hard. It's pretty hard. It's not an easy journey, and it's again uncertain, and anything can happen anytime. Suddenly, I won't be surprised if I lose my job tomorrow. That's how volatile the industry is. It's not like I'm going to blame anybody there. That's how it works. That's how this industry operates. But still, I want to be a part of it. I want to work with interesting people, interesting problems, try to grow things, try to see, sometimes whatever you do, things won't work in a few, be it an organization or a team or whatever it might be, right? But you need to be confident at the end of the day, right? That you did whatever was capable from your end. It shouldn't be a mediocre job or a subpar job. You and your team did whatever possible from your end, and still it didn't work out for some reason, which is okay. You just need to accept and move on, right? So I think that's the mindset with which I've been operating, and that maturity, it took some time for me to get into that mindset. Hey, this is how things work, and I think that's one of the reasons why I keep going back to
Zero
startups
to
and
this
this
startup.
whole 0 to 1 journey.
Yeah. So, I mean, takeaways here for me, I mean, someone who wants to do it again and again, they should enjoy that faster execution. They should enjoy looking at the growth of the company, right? They shouldn't be siloed looking at what they are doing. If you join a
Yeah, I
bigger
think
org, automatically it becomes that. Then you, and of course, all the companies, Facilio, Zluri, and Konsark, they kind of in a place, okay, they were kind of close to the PMF, and you get there and you build the team. And I have seen Zluri folks very solid, right? Yep. So seeing the growth of the company, people, faster execution, and also the rush in doing all these things. Yep. Interesting. Yep. Like you said, AI is making, if someone is incapable, AI is, expose that easily to the org, right? So in that case, now things got a lot easier. I used to say my friends that, hey, whatever me and my colleague in my team, whatever we are doing, which will be like 10-member work
Hmm.
2-3 years back. Now things got a lot easier. But yeah, I mean, every episode we touch AI, I go a little surface level, but this time I
Yeah.
just want to dig deep, want to understand the workflows, the tool stack for an early
Hmm.
stage company, early stage SaaS company, what you're
Hmm.
doing at
Hmm.
Konsark. That will be
Hmm.
really helpful for them. Can we
Yeah.
dig on that?
Yeah. 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 So I'm not going to talk about tools here. So I think one, uh, I also went through that whole AI, been going through that AI with multiple waves of AI, right? Uh, I think early on it was more like wrapper products, and then like some interesting tools came out, but they were like super expensive. Like you need to spend an equivalent of how much you're spending for a Salesforce for the product to go and integrate on top of Salesforce and give you insights. Simple example, which was expensive, pretty expensive. So the good products were expensive. Subpar products didn't work. Deployment times were very large for many products that were coming out in the market. So that was the other way. Then your workflows came into the picture, like your Make.com and it and kind of products came into the picture. I think that's when I also started shifting that mindset from, hey, let's take a step back on the whole tool evaluation part. Let's not always look around thinking, hey, let me bring this tool to solve this problem. Let's look at building things. So, and I think that started back at Zluri, where we kind of started experimenting with N8, and that led to other things. We saw the potential and capability of these platforms. Of course, learning it was a bit hard coming from a non-tech background, but I think all marketers would have used Zapier at some point in time. It's just a more in-depth version of what a Zapier would do. And again, Zapier have their own workflow platform today. So I think that's when a shift happened in my thought process where, hey, let's stop chasing tools altogether. Of course, we can continue to have those discussions, but let's try solving it by ourselves. So I also kind of enabled my team internally on how they should think AI first. I didn't mean provided the stage that we weren't. I didn't want them to spend all the time there, but think AI first, not from a tool perspective, but how you can solve for it using the current these type of technologies which you can build by ourselves. And then a lot of things started happening. We started rolling out, and I was able to see that efficiency out of these things getting built by ourselves and then getting deployed within the organization. So fast forward, I think now I'm at Konsark, and something that I started very early on here is whatever we talk about, whatever we plan to do, whatever we've been doing, I try to build a system around it. So I kind of turned myself into more of a system thinker, thinking in systems for all the problems, provided I have that marketing foundations as well. So it's relatively easier, right? And then, as I mentioned earlier, I used to fiddle with Codex. I used to fiddle with Cloud Code. And for some reason, I found Cloud Code pretty efficient. So got access to Cloud Code internally. And then what I did was, I think even before our positioning exercise started, I wanted a system. I don't want it to live in docs or sheets. I want a living system. I want a system which can give me those version history as well, because positioning is something that's going to keep on changing. And it started there. So this is more around building with AI, and then it's not like how I use AI into my workflows, which I'll come to that part shortly, but this is more around building with AI and how it helps. So we first built that whole positioning piece. I didn't want to overcomplicate things. You need 5 to 6 components for a good positioning exercise. Your category, your ICP, your persona, who are your competitors, where you are different, what are your key differentiators. Yeah, I think these are the five components. I might have missed some things. So I kind of built that out, and then I used AI to come up with that narrative at the end of the day, right? So I'm basically feeding that information, and just the whole part of figuring things out, typing things out, I don't want to do that. So I kind of used AI, and again, everything can be edited at the end of the day, and everything should be approved by my co-founders. So that's where it started. And one thing that happened was I spoke with all my co-founders. I also spoke to my head of engineering. So when we did that positioning exercise, instead of sharing a
What
document,
about
I just
sales team?
Yeah, sales. I mean, it's mostly
Okay.
founder-led sales here.
Okay,
So,
cool.
anyways, all those sales insights I'm able to get from them. So, essentially, what happened was when we were running those sessions, experiments, I just open out. I'll share my screen and tell them, hey, this is how the positioning exercise is going to work. These are the 5 or 6 components that make up to my positioning at the end of the day. And this is like, I wouldn't, usual positioning exercise takes 3 to 6 months, but we just need to get up and running. So let's start here. And then once I started doing that, I think I started getting more and more insights on, let's say, hey, I think we need to bring in agents, or we need to strengthen the agents part. I think let's go a little bit deeper on the ICP front. So all those questions started coming in from our team members, and then we kind of started drilling down into the key differentiators, etc., etc. And like organically, it started surfacing from our team, telling, "Hey, this is how we use AI, and this is our AI framework today." All those technical details also started coming up. So if I had set up a meeting and went to them and asked them, "Hey, give me answers for these 2 questions," it would have been like a very transactional exercise that I had. But now showing it to them, hey, this is how the structure works. And then I showed them, I generated with AI, hey, this is how the positioning statement is going to look like. Are you good with it? Now it's like a bigger statement, but don't flip. This is just for our reference. Anyways, this is going to trickle down into your messaging, your brand voice, etc. So then I built that as well. So I brought in brand voice into the platform. I brought in how the messaging should look like into the platform. And everything will be generated by AI. But what I was essentially solving for is the context. And then I had a section where I can get inputs from my founders, from my sales team, and put it there so that it'll tell me, hey, how this positioning should this insight kind of impact your positioning or not? AI would tell me. And it won't go and kind of override anything. Everything is like, I'll be in the loop. So I need to go and approve things, and then things will start running, right? So that's where this started. Where and then over a period of time, what we've started doing is essentially I'm solving for context today. Now, context is what all of your conversations in the market with your founders, what's happening with your competitors, what's happening with a specific deal, and getting an account research brief from Zoom Info, or getting the context about the latest email that you sent to a specific prospect or about an event. So now this is a system where I keep updating it with like every single information that is worthy enough. And then I'll weight it. Hey, this is a high weightage piece. This is a medium weightage piece. This is a low weightage piece. So that I'm kind of instructing the system to to how to use the knowledge base that I'm building for it. So it started there. Then what I did was I was pretty excited about it. I built everything. I built a module for outbound, for nurturing, for content, SEO, for assets, for generating assets. So I kind of integrated that with a Claude API, and
Mm,
then that would help me generate assets from within. You'll typically see a Claude like
right,
interface on the platform. It'll help me generate content, etc.
right.
So I built everything, like every random thing in marketing. I went and built it because I was like super excited. Hey, this is really good. This has a lot of brings in a lot of efficiency. And my idea was to like run marketing on this. I think some part is actually running there today. And then I brought in my co-founders, and then I asked them to review it. So the part that I wanted to solve for was more around sales enablement and asset creation. So now this system has like good amount of context. So what I do is, so I, along with my other co-founder, we go and test it. So we'll prompt for something on Claude. We'll add the same prompt on this platform and see which one is more accurate. And what we observed was, since Claude's API will only work around the context that I have within this specific system, it gave me richer content. And it was on par with what a Claude LLM would give, but much more richer, much more contextual, along with all the knowledge base plugged into it. So now that part is solved. Next, I integrated with HubSpot. I'm essentially solving for context. So when I showed this to when I showed this whole platform to one of my co-founders, he was like, he reviewed everything and then he told, dude, you're solving for context today. That's what I'm able to get out of it. That was also my realization point. And then I started bringing in more and more context. I integrated that system with HubSpot.
Awesome.
And now I can type, search for a deal, or an account for that matter, and then all the context gets into my platform. So if you just zoom out, right, I have my positioning. Another part that I missed was we also started coming up with very deeper positioning for our agents. Like today, there are a couple of agents which our customers want to bring in today, which brings them immense efficiency gains. So we have like really good messaging framework for every single agent. I brought that into my platform as well. And then let's say I'm doing product videos, I'll bring in the transcript. Let's say my co-founder is doing a webinar, I'll bring in the transcript. So that's how I strengthen the system. So if you zoom out, on one end you have your positioning and messaging. So Konsark positioning, and then you have messaging for the platform for the agents. And then on the other end, you have your deals or accounts. You have its own context. Some manual work is needed in terms of bringing in your Zoom info research, etc., because you don't have access to their APIs, but it's like a copy paste
Okay.
job. That's it. So I have my account specific context, and then I have my complete knowledge base. So three things come together to kind of solve for my entire sales enablement part.
Got it. Got
Now,
it.
that's the first unlock out of this system. Second, how I'm using this is as a system of records as well. Any data point, for example, if you take SEO for that matter, I'll generate SEO report every 4 weeks. I'll also keep a track of what changes I've been doing. And then this gets onto my system. So typically you'll have multiple snapshots. So there are 4 or 5 snapshots. It'll compare and tell me how things are running, how things are improving, or is it like decelerating? Are your top keywords moving up or moving down? What is the traffic? How is your US market performing? All those things are over there. But I do have, I mean, this can still be significantly improved, but I haven't done it yet, right? So that's there. And now with HubSpot integration, I can bring in all of my my pipeline data points, performance, conversion rates, so on and so forth, right? And then there is one command center where you'll be able to see the complete, think of it as a dashboard, right? So what's happening across different platforms. The problem there is some of them I can bring in through API, some of them I need to export and import, but essentially all these data points are also context for the system, right? So that is there. I have a section to build case studies. So it's like,
When are you going to sell it?
no
No,
plans.
no. I mean, very interesting. Yeah,
So,
go ahead, go ahead.
but you can do all these with Claude projects as well. But for some reason, I wanted a
Not
system
exactly
that can
projects, but with
scale
skills, because skill
skills,
is,
etc.
yeah.
Yeah, you can do. But I wanted that elasticity in terms of I can. So today, my salesperson is starting to use. We have enabled them. If they tell me, hey, I want this in the system, I can go and build it in 30 minutes. So I think I want that elasticity, and anything that we want to solve for, it's already there. So the base functionalities are already there. Now, currently, I'm solving for the whole asset generation, sales enablement, etc., nurture programs, etc. Now, let's say 1 month down the line, I want to kind of start solving for something else within the organization. I have the foundations today, and I have the architecture built basically. I just need to kind of build it and get it up and running. So I think that has completely shifted my thinking in terms of, hey, I want more people. I want more money for tools. If I'm not able to solve with this, then it makes sense for me to go and, kind of hire or bring in a tool. Anyways, the company is spending on Claude tokens. That's a preset amount that we are spending on a month over month basis. So why not make use of it, right? So I think first trying to solve for it and the speed at which I think uh, 12 months back, I could not have done this with N8N because I need to go and manually build the nodes, plug each of these nodes, see if it's working out fine, get access permissions, blah, 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 right? Which I can't spend that time. But with Cloud Code, I know what I need to do. I envision a system and I can also test it. So I think it has made us as a marketing org much more efficient and much more faster. Of course, there are like a lot of things that we need to still solve for, but I think that's the thought process in which we are using AI in marketing. So essentially, everything will get covered over here. You need data analysis, the system will do it for you. Now you need to like kind of generate a one pager, the system will do it for you. So that part is built, but now we are like kind of testing out and seeing what are the improvements that we need to bring into this system. So yeah, I think now we are not kind of limited, like let's say of course the people or the budget part. So that's the whole thought process around AI for me at this point in time. So I need to first try to solve it by myself using the existing capabilities. If I'm not able to do it, or if there is some significant restriction around me not having the taxes or not having that authority to go and do it, then it makes sense for me to go out and do it. Or scale is another part. Like I'm sure that I can't keep managing this forever. So how should I do it at scale? Right. So that's another part that I need to think through on. And when the whole conversation of scale comes in, then things will start slightly changing. Whether should people come in or should be like kind of make some upgrades to the system that we are having, all those things will come into the picture. But that's how I'm thinking about AI and trying out a lot of newer and newer things. And the other part is your Claude integrated with through MCPs with all the tools, HubSpot, Zoom Info, Outreach, any other, whatever tool that we are bringing in, we are also evaluating if they have an MCP. That makes our job much more faster.
I took this call a couple of months back. I mean, SEMrush don't have MCP back then.
Mm-hmm.
They recently rolled out that. So I moved from SEMrush to Ahref because they have MCP. I think people will start doing that. I mean, even our customers started asking for MCP. Whatever you said, right? I think I know, Claude kind of become my work interface recently. So whatever you said, I think there is this recent concept called Claude.md, where it will
Mm-hmm.
be like you are positioning fundamental doc. And on top of that, you can have multiple skills. Like, so in my case, for example, we have a design skill that knows
Mm-hmm.
our design language. I fed that with all enough information, all enough. One thing that miss is, sorry, how do I put it? Like, okay, I gave it some feedback. It is not, I mean, every time I have to give it a new feedback. That is something I'm missing out. So if it is self-learning, things will get a lot better. One thing. Second thing, like you said, asset generation got a lot easier. If you connect with your HubSpot or your Gong, Clario, whatever it is, if you just bring that transcript and the account information, you can really build a good enough doc if you have enough context. That is something we are currently practicing. And also for all sort of asset generation, and one of the things I want to practice, just validate this thought, right? I think it might be useful for other marketers who are listening to it. So what about a synthetic audience skill
Mm-hmm.
or MD file? So it knows who we are selling to. And when
Mm-hmm.
they read this copy, how are they going to perceive it? Are they going to find it really hard? Are they going to find it more jargony? Or are they really understanding offer from this?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think about this, Mukil? Is it part of your Mukil's AGI, or it is something we should build?
Depends, I would say, because I think here for us at Konsark, the biggest validation from a positioning messaging perspective comes in from the industry, comes in from the CFOs whom our founders talk to. Fortunately, since they are well connected in the network today, they themselves have been through that journey. So the access to kind of validate it with any other CFO or a controller is pretty relatively easier. Right? So it's not going to be a cold conversation at all. It's always either a warm or a hot conversation where they can just kind of WhatsApp someone and ask them to give their thoughts. Hey, this is what we are rolling out. What are your thoughts? I think that has been and this is not just scoped out to a geography or to a specific company. Folks have connections across the globe. So when we do that actual validation, so this is done before even anything goes out. So we did our agents launch a couple of months back, and I think there as well we wanted to validate it as much as possible. Hey, is this making sense? And is this like very very one thing that I was very very particular about was I don't want to sound very flashy. Right? So since we are selling to an enterprise audience, I want to be very realistic on what this is capable of, and then back it up with product. and ensure that the language is up to that mark. Right? Of course, I used AI at the end of the day, but like, these were the guardrails that I had when I was generating and writing the copies. So the biggest validation comes in from real people who are
Real.
actually in the industry. But again, I mean, this is something that we always, I mean, I always do, right? So it's my own personal stress check where if I'm going to do something, if I'm trying to do something new, I'll just again prompt Claude asking, hey, how do you think would a person in so and so role would perceive this? That is one. Second, how would you rate this copy at the end of the day out of 10 and tell me the things that I need to fix? So these are some things that we are already doing. Most of us will be doing, but it's worth experimenting, I would say. Now, how are you going to build that whole audience, right? Is it going to come from an export of your ICPs? I mean, your personas, LinkedIn profiles, maybe based on their experience.
Call
We don't know.
transcript, LinkedIn
Call
profiles,
transcripts, LinkedIn profiles.
podcast, existing podcast.
Yeah.
What
But we
else we can
still
do?
won't know. It's something that's worth experimenting because we still won't know. There are like a lot of other variables at play as well, right? So, but it's worth experimenting. That's what I would say.
One thing that comes again and again in this podcast from people who I'm talking to: do more experiments. And
Mhm.
AI made experiments a lot easier now. So that is the only thing that
Yeah.
will take us forward, right? Yeah. So yeah, Konsark, you joined like 6 months back, and we spoke about your switching journey, right?
Mhm.
From Zluri to Konsark. So if someone at your stage with a decade of experience who is moving from company A to company B, what are the three advice you will be? I mean, three advice for them. Okay.
Mhm.
Because different things, right? Company evaluate a 5 year old, I mean, 5 year experienced person, and someone like you is very different. And you,
Mhm.
how you evaluate company is going to be very different, because your priorities in early stage in the career is
Mhm.
very different, and what is there is totally different. So what are your three advice for them?
Maybe I can talk from my own experience. I'm not sure. I still don't know if I'm authorized enough to advise others on this. But
I mean, no advice,
uh,
right? This opinions at the end of the day. Yeah.
if you're coming from a large organization, I think you should be ready to completely operate in a different way. I was able to see the change coming from Zluri to Konsark.
Mm.
Think of Zluri as pre-AI, is Konsark as post-AI. I think the not just AI, but how companies are being run is has fundamentally shifting. There are actual folks who are making millions of dollars with just two, three people in the team. Right? It's an actual reality today. So I think if you're moving from a large organization into a very early stage startup, you should be ready to fundamentally change the way you operate as a marketer. That's going to be a non-negotiable, and it encompasses all of your AI, etc., etc. Right? So whatever, etc. Um, and then I think uh, the second part is more around the budgets and the pace of execution, because something that I keep hearing as a complaint from many people, including myself, I would have complained at some point in time telling, hey, I don't have budgets, right? Or I have these constraints. And so I think people should be ready to figure out a smarter solution to that, because I think it's getting harder and harder to raise in the current scenario. A lot of companies that I know, a lot of marketers at these companies, I think one fundamental issue is fundraise is becoming a problem. Although I need to go back and read all those research reports, but from what I've been hearing, I see that's the case. And then second, for companies who are already funded, the pressure to deliver is way, way, way high. And the companies who started as a pure play SaaS company and then repositioned into an AI first agentic AI company, I don't think people even consider the revenue that you generated as a SaaS company anymore. They are going to only look into you're essentially starting at zero if you're repositioning as an AI company. From a whole investor lens, I'm talking, right? Because everybody's chasing AI today, right? If you see, one of the reasons why every single company is changing themselves, repositioning themselves into an AI company or an agent company. It's because of that, because that's where the industry is moving, and they need to bring in agentic capabilities or AI capabilities to stay relevant. I think, in fact, Salesforce as well opened out their APIs to their system of records the other
Headless.
couple of months, headless, couple of months back, right? So I think that's where the industry is moving towards. So you need to be a part of it, and once you get into that space, the pace at which you need to execute is it's tremendously high. You need to execute at a at a much more faster pace with these constraints. I mean, constraints maybe there may not be there, but you need to execute. You can't just sit and wait or figure out, right? So you need to take those calls. You need to start taking those calls. I think that would be the second one in the current era. Third one would be to spend as much time in the market with just your customers, your prospects, with your founders, trying to understand what they're actually essentially solving for, right? So like kind of question them on, hey, why not this? Why not do it this way, right? So why did we not think of it in a different manner? And like what is that one priority that we are looking at? And be very realistic. I think something that has helped me out for quite some time is don't kind of give a fancy reality to your co-founders at the end of the day, or don't sell a fantasy to your co-founder from a marketing perspective. Be very realistic. I think, hey, this is what is possible for the stage that we are in. If you need to go from here to here with so and so constraints within X amount of time, this is what we need. Most of them stop at that first part. That pisses
Mukil,
off
you're pushing
any
back,
co-founder.
Mukil.
So I think it's your job to make the team understand that this is the reality today. If you're getting hired for a senior role, right? So you should not go and randomly tell this. You should go with data. Talk about how this is happening. What are the benchmarks? How these benchmarks are evolving in recent times. Why we should do next 2 3 things if we need to get there. I think have very data driven discussions. Don't do it like a water cooler chat where, hey, this is what we can do. This won't work. This is the reality. That won't work at all. You need to go with clear data, and that's when founders will not just founders but any leader would understand where we are coming from, right? So I think marketing is a function where everybody will have hundreds of opinions. It's that type of a function because everybody is a consumer. Everybody is getting impacted by these campaigns. So I know someone who came and told, hey, ads only work for B2C, doesn't work in B2B, right? So
Who's that?
I can't reveal that, but that's the, I mean, I don't blame them at the end of the day, because this marketing is like a very huge ocean. There are so many variables, so many numbers, so many things at play. And then you as a consumer is experiencing something different, right? So I as a consumer is experiencing something completely different, right? And when I don't have that exposure to marketing, like B2B marketing, people will have misunderstandings about it. So I think it should be on you to kind of clarify that. That will happen a lot in early stage startups, because you're working under pressure. You need to get things done. You need to chase revenue like anything. And if you're a funded company, you're going to get screwed in your next board meeting if you're not able to hit the numbers. So while you're working in that scenario, you need to set very realistic expectations, right? And I think what I used to do is I'll also give them a best case, worst case scenario. Hey, best case we'll get there. Worst case, this is what is going to happen. Be ready for it, and this is going to be the plan B. So after a point in time, you will be able to kind of judge how this is going to pan out. Maybe you can call it gut feeling or something else, right? But you will know in
Yeah.
some areas, you will essentially very confidently know this is what is gonna happen, and it will happen. Like after like couple of years of experience, or if you have worked in a very specific area for like 2 3 years, day in day out, you will be able to judge. For example, performance marketing is one area, SEO is one area where if you go and talk to like a hardcore SEM person, they will very easily tell you how a minor change or a minor constraint or change in any of the variables would impact a campaign by just a single glance, right? And that will turn out to be true. So I think if you work with a lot of these SCM agencies, there will always be an issue between if a marketer is not there, if there is in one agency and then there is someone else who is handling things like running point with the agency, there will always be an issue where the expectations will be completely different. And the agency will struggle to kind of set that expectation. Hey, dude, for this budget, this market, this is what we can expect. We can't like magically churn out more leads, right? So I think that would be the third most important part if you're joining an early stage startup. And if you're coming from a large organization, it's going to be a very, very hard shift. That whole cultural change will be visible and hard. And if you're coming from a startup already, I think it's relatively easier, but again, you need to adapt to your AI reality and the market reality at this point and the geopolitical reality. US is the biggest spender today, right? Now, if US closes their wallets, every company is screwed. So you need to have a overarching understanding. You're marketing to people at the end of the day, right? Who run businesses. So you need to also have an understanding of where the world is moving from an economical perspective. Right? Will people be open to pay? They're like so. I also read a lot around economics. So that's like a direct indicator, right, for how the world is moving forward and how and what it's going to do to me as a person at the end of the day in the next 2-3 months. So I think that world view is much more required for any marketer today. That's super, super important. And also stay on top of whatever is happening on the AI front.
Interesting.
I may
Yep.
have missed
So,
something, but off the top of my head, yes, these are the things.
yep, I have very good answers that was off the record. But yeah, so we'll do a quick one word rapid fire and end this podcast. So, which is one of the most overhyped martech category now?
Category. I need to think. I mean, overhyped. I don't know about the delivery yet, but two things that I keep on seeing is one on the content front, AI plus content. Another one is AI plus intent. So these are the two things.
I know. I mean, the more intense signals we see, right? The more things are getting creepier.
Yeah, I have
Yep.
I mean that's what I've been thinking, right? Maybe after the rapid fire, I'll just talk about it for like 5 minutes. I've been thinking about that for a while on how to remove noise and how to actually focus on what matters for the business. But maybe after this rapid fire, I'll talk about it. But yeah, I think
Sure.
fundamentally these are the two things that I keep seeing that people keep pitching. Like I get a lot of these cold calls from not cold calls, cold emails from a lot of these new companies. So I don't know how they deliver, but I'm seeing that happening.
Interesting. So, one tool that you would refuse to remove from your stack,
Hmm.
you'll fight for it.
Obviously a CRM. So uh, maybe yeah, I think that single system of record, it may be CRM. Usually it's the CRM, but it can be anything. So that's gonna be the fundamental tool that I won't remove from my stack.
So,
Also
who
all your
should?
LLMs.
Yep, true. I know that's a multi-use case tool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say Claude first and then your system.
CRM. Yep. So, who should be the first marketing hire in the company?
I would say I won't. I'm not going to get into whether it should be a product marketer or a demand gen person, etc. But it should be someone who is really good at communication, who can translate very complex concepts into a narrative that their ICPs can understand, who can kind of help or build that path on how the pipeline generation should look like eventually. I'm talking more of a generalist. If you want me to put
Yeah,
a word, that would be generalist. Now let's say
generalist.
a generalist is not available. A very good product marketing person should be the first hire because without positioning, whatever you do, it's waste of time. So that's what I would say.
Do you think early stage, if you go talk to 100 people
Hmm.
and a demand gen person is someone who can open doors for the 100 people, then you can figure out the positioning, right? Because for an early stage company, if it
Mm-hmm.
is a first marketing hire, it takes a year to understand where we are really heading. So, do you think the other way, if this or not?
Depends on the market. So which market you are kind of operating in, a lot of
Got it.
variables are at play, right? So, and the other thing is for demand gen to operate, you need your positioning sorted.
To
I
be there.
wouldn't call it sorted yet. It's going to be an evolution until you
First
hit 1
version of it.
million, etc. So, but you need some working version which all of us agree upon, and the market also starts resonating with that. That's when it's kind of, how demand gen would start firing and then start bringing in leads. If not, you'll be like randomly going with the wrong messaging for 100 people, and then the demand gen person would be lost if they don't have that capability to kind of navigate, come up with narratives, messaging. I mean, today anybody can put it into cloud and get it, but again, that's not up to the mark. It's like very, very, it's written by a machine. You need a lot of components to it. You need to have a lot of convers. Basically, you need to build the context. What kind of questions are you going to ask to your customers and your founders to kind of build this out? uh, and how are you going to build a story out of it? So that's going to be the most important part. But there are cases where the other side has worked. Now, let's say if you're selling a CRM, it's a very crowded market. There are playbooks already out there. You just need someone to come in and start executing. If you're building a verticalized CRM, let's say for some other industry, then it's a proven play. You know what you need to talk about. So it's like depends on the market and what you're trying.
Established category, go for a demand gen person. New category or emerging category, go for a product marketer.
Still, I wouldn't like kind of 100% agree with it.
Okay.
See, you need that positioning and messaging sorted. If you have a working version of it, then it makes sense to start going all out on demand gen. If that's not it, if you're not, if a co-founder is not yet convinced, or if they don't come from the background for that matter, right? So there are like a lot of companies that are built by hardcore techies. Their only experience has been either engineering, head of engineering, or head of product management kind of roles, right? There they naturally find it a little bit hard unless until they have a curiosity for marketing and how this works. So there I think it makes sense to bring in someone. But let's say the co-founder in itself is someone who has that marketing flair, who understands marketing at a high level. Then I think it depends on I think it's the co-founder's call.
Cool. Go ahead. Yeah, a lot of variables there. Interesting. So, who are those three companies you steal / inspire ideas from?
So this is something I don't just look into B2B SaaS companies. I look at all random companies. For example, one, yes, you need to stay on top of all of your competitors always. Second is I always look into what these new and upcoming startups are doing. I follow the Y Combinator page. I follow all of these startup news, startup newsletters. I try to see what these guys are doing because all these new age cool startups come up with sometimes very different things, right? Even the web page would look completely different. A different idea would be there. The font would be different, or how they are. The release video would be. In recent times, everybody has started putting out a release video for their product or company. The innovation that they are bringing in, the creativity that they are bringing in is like so good. So that is one. And I think I keep looking at all the other, whatever I come across on a day-to-day basis, right? For example, before this call, I bought a new razor, a Gillette razor. It had these 5 blades or something, and I was just looking at. I already bought it, but I was just looking at it and hey, why did I even buy this? Why I did not even look at other competitors in this space? For some reason, I've been using Gillette forever. So then, okay, let's go and kind of be curious and see why this is happening, right? So how is their marketing looking like? So I think you should not stick to your own industry, your own space. You can go out. You should go out. Essentially, you should go out and look at how other companies are kind of building not building but marketing their products. I think you'll get a lot of inspiration. But from more tactical perspective, let's say like demand gen, ops, etc., you need to talk to more and more people. Like more than companies, you need to talk to more and more practitioners because there's so much noise out there. Every company tells they are best at something. We still don't know the reality, but you need to go and talk to practitioners who have been there, done that, and then kind of move the needle. So that's how I do it. I do a lot of random things. I read random things. Suddenly somewhere I might get an idea. So that kind of helps.
This is one common answer I heard from like 2, 3 people recently.
Mhm.
Reading variety of things kind of helps to market better. Yep, with that, I'll wind this episode. Glad chatting with you. A lot of things about career, positioning,
Mhm.
and post this episode. Please show me, share me your screen and show me what you built for Konsark, the engine,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
That's in another tab. I think before we end one part, so I think it's a good ending for what we discussed, right? I think before this podcast we were talking about the whole Bayesian thinking,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
we
I
didn't
totally forgot that.
talk
Yeah, yeah,
about.
please.
I'll just quickly run you through what it is, right? Again, provided the noise that's been happening in recent times,
Yeah,
so many tools, so much of
yeah,
data getting generated, so much of data getting into these dashboards, reports. Now the debates around and everybody turning to building a brand now. There was a time when if you go and ask for a brand budget, nobody would give you. They'll ask you to move it into ads or an events or something that gives you, leads at the end of the day. So off late, I've been thinking about it for quite some time, and I wanted to kind of build a bridge between your whole positioning, then brand, then your whole demand gen. And I wanted a single line of logic. I think of it as a formula equation, which you should be able to apply for anything that you do in marketing. It can be a campaign that you're running. It can be a repositioning exercise that you're going through. So I mean, there are like a lot of studies around this. There are like a lot of proven models for that. But something that I came across recently is this whole Bayesian thinking. So there's something called as a Bayes theorem. It revolves around the whole conditional probability piece. So essentially, what it means is, so you are believing something, and your belief will keep getting updated based on the evidence that you're receiving. So this is essentially what Bayes theorem does, right? Uh, Now, if I break that down and bring in the marketing context, so your positioning is typically the belief is something that you want your prospects to believe in, right? And then you do all the ICP research, etc., etc. And then your messaging is nothing but the evidence that they need to kind of have to believe in your positioning. And then the other part, which is how you're going to validate that, is the leads. No, I'm not going to call it leads, but it's the whole demand gen part, right? So if I kind of maybe let me take a step back and give it to you in a more day-to-day example. Now, let's say you're sick for a while and you go to a hospital. The first test that the doctor would prescribe is a complete blood count, right? Now, at that point in time, their belief system is different. They're just thinking, hey, this person is unwell. Let's do a complete blood count and look into the numbers. Now, the numbers come in. Let's say a couple of markers are, there's a deviation in these markers.
okay, okay,
Now, the belief system changes for the doctor. They'll ask you to take more set of tests. So, until they are 100% set on a belief system, you'll keep on running those tests and keep sharing those numbers to your doctor.
right, right, right.
Then your doctor starts diagnosing. This
Yeah,
is basically a belief system, a Bayesian thinking process. We naturally already do it in our day-to-day lives. It's just that I'm putting a name to it and an equation to it. You can maybe after the podcast, you can go and search for the Bayesian
yeah,
theorem and you'll see a formula. Maybe we might have learned it in school. I don't remember. But essentially what happens is you start with a belief, you start with a positioning, and then you
you
have
test
an
that.
evidence.
You test that.
So before testing, you come with a message. You come up with a messaging. So
Yeah,
what is the backend
that is
for
the
that
belief.
positioning? Right? That is the you have that messaging part, which is the evidence around that whole positioning, right? And then all these things happen on the upstream part. And this is where you build all your branding efforts. Every single branding effort gets into your positioning, your messaging, your positioning, your messaging. You keep on reinforcing. And then you have this whole touch points game, right? So there are studies where, hey, someone needs to see this brand so and so times to start, kind of get and book a meeting with you, etc. So essentially, what you're doing with all these brand initiatives is you're kind of strengthening the belief system of your ICP, if your ICP is right or if your persona is right. Uh, and then let's say they get onto your website and they again go through your messaging, etc. That's like a reinforcement to your early belief system. So is their belief system getting updated based on the newer and newer evidences that they are getting. It need not be a website, it can be a case study, it can be some other influencer talking about you, it can be an ad that's showing up, it can be anything for that matter. And then let's say they are going and booking a meeting with you. Now, what you'll do is you'll start tracking the meetings, which is your evidence for this whole positioning part at the end of the day, right? So essentially, what's happening is on one end, you have your brand part, which is reinforcing and strengthening that belief system of your prospects. And downstream, you have your demand gen part, which kind of again gives you the evidence that hey, this whole positioning narrative is working for you,
Yeah. They're
right?
resonating with that.
They are resonating with it. Now, this is essentially what is marketing at the end of the day. So now when people think about, hey, branding is a separate investment, demand gen is a separate investment, that's a completely wrong way to approach this. And both, so if you put that in an equation, in the base theorem equation, your brand will be on the left, equal to right side will be your demand gen. So both these are in the different ends of the same spectrum. So you can't eliminate brand and keep it aside and then do only demand gen. And this is the reason, coming back, why we need someone who is good at this whole positioning, messaging, ICP research, persona research exercise. Because that's the first solid part that we need to, because you're essentially building a belief system. And your prospect needs to start believing on why they should even come and talk to you, right? So I think there are like technical names for that, where something is called posterior, then you have evidence, blah, blah, blah. I think you can read about it. But
True.
essentially, I think this whole Bayesian thinking is where marketers should move forward. Today, we tell it by instinct. Like some cases, we tell them, hey, this number is moving, I think this is working, right? So you can even apply that same concept for any type of campaign that you're running, right? Or traffic for that matter. Or that's where intent signals also come into the picture. SQL. Now that's a number that you have. Now what you need to do is you need to actually go and get into that Bayesian thinking, because what you're thinking through is a very linear way of approaching it. Is that probability actually 50%, right? How should you go about doing that? Because there will be people who come to your pricing page and won't book a meeting at all, right? Or won't even, do anything after that. They'll just bounce off. So I think that whole probabilistic thinking is something that's more and more essential in recent times. I think another simple example is how your LLM surface you in your chat. What
Yeah.
it's essentially doing is it's operating in a belief system based on the training data, and then it goes out and kind of sees evidence for that whole belief system that it's operating on. That's where your overall your whatever citation, analyst entries, your etc. Everything gets into the picture, and then it ensures that it keeps updating its own belief system, right? And then it surfaces the information for you. So I think that the whole Bayesian thought process is something that we need to start practicing. I think probability thinking and probabilities is going to be super, super important and essential as well, because that will help you kind of identify, kind of remove noise from signal. Now, I mean, for example, the buying behavior is changing. Not many people are even coming to your website, but you still look into traffic as a metric, which is not going to make sense anymore, right? Second is your whole MQL part, right? So marketing is becoming more and more of a revenue function where people are starting to optimize for SQL. Then why should I look at how many leads I generated from an event where I didn't even have a conversation, right? Or your intent system flags off a keyword intent for a specific keyword. Now you need to see out of all the SQLs that you generated, what is the probability of, or what is the signal that you're getting from these keywords? How did it look like for these accounts? Should this even be a signal that you need to track? So everywhere you get a doubt, the Bayesian thinking is something that you need to apply in your day-to-day job. And I'm also still reading and still researching. I still don't know how I can very easily, bring it into my day-to-day job.
I think you should write a very detailed article
I
with
want to.
bunch of examples. Please,
Yeah,
you should do
I'm
that.
going
Yeah.
to write it soon. But again, yeah, I'm just I just stumbled upon it while reading a very random piece a couple of weeks back, and then it made sense to me. And then actually there are like very deep research made around Bayes theorem in or Bayesian thinking in marketing. So I may not have also defined it correctly in depth. So worth checking out. But I think that
Yeah.
that gives you that fundamental clarity on what marketing does today.
Right.
And this whole debate around brand or demand gen or these signals work, these intent work, everything is this solves for everything. You just need to, and it's math at the end of the day. You just need to put
And
it and look into the
what you're
number.
saying is very fundamental, right? All the demand gen activities intent are on top of that. If you have clarity on this, automatically you will get clarity there. With both of these, right? Bayesian theorem, Bayesian on marketing, and with all these examples,
Mm.
we should write one. And one of the things I really like about marketers is coming up with the names, right?
Mm.
You picked Bayesian randomly and try to plug that with marketing, right? Recently, when I spoke to Yellow's head of marketing, she has this term called demand gen triangle,
Mhm.
or she called demand triangle, I guess. Brand, product marketing, and demand gen. How she is putting this together. So,
Mm.
or I mean, I forgot that maybe the names is something. The roles we are seeing. GTM engineer become a thing now.
Mm.
When Profound called
Yeah,
content
yeah.
engineer.
Marketing
So
engineer,
things are changing. Marketing engineer, content engineer.
marketing engineer. They have
Okay,
a
cool.
course
Yeah,
and all for it.
a lot of things are there. I mean, every company wants to. I mean, have a put a suffix engineer there with them. That's a crazy thing.
Yeah,
Few nailed it, but a lot of people are noise now. That is
yeah.
something I would say. Yeah, okay. With that, I'll wind this conversation. I think I'm expecting that Bayesian theorem from
Yeah,
you
yeah.
very soon.
I'll read some more. I'm actually working on some of those. I'm actually solving those math problems now just for me to get more and more understanding on how I can easily explain it to others. I mean, Claude is kind of training me and I'm solving one problem a day. So it's like
Claude is one of the best
doing,
teachers
yeah, it's
there.
like doing math after a while. So I will soon write about it.
Yeah, but this conversation kind of, I mean, start as a podcast and become like, okay, Mukil sharing what is what he knows to me. That's how it went. Yep. With that, I'll say
All right.
bye to people. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Sudarshan. It was a great podcast and had fun speaking to you.